Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another cast here on the Summoner's Rift. My name is Ashen, and today we are going to be spectating Xiao Huasheng, otherwise known as Mr. Peanut, the man who took LCK for himself, at least in the jungle role. Together with his team, obviously, he is a part of Gen G, a team that you might know as a European viewer, might know from Nemesis. Nemesis is currently in that team, obviously as a streamer. And he's going to be starting here on the Wukong. He's doing the classic, ward recall type of deal. The timing sometimes varies, but it's always around the 50 second mark. You always have to kind of figure out when the perfect timing is for you to recall, and obviously you want to max out the effect of that ward. It has multiple purposes, obviously, right? It kind of helps your mid laner from level 2 ganks. It protects your jungle from early invades, and thus this discourages early invades just because the ward could be there, right? Alright, we're going to be starting at the red here, and I'm expecting a full clear here out of Wukong, but obviously the question is how exactly he is going to path that. Alright, we are moving into the mid lane just for a second there, probably just to make sure that there's no counter gank, or there is no gank, and if there is, he can counter gank, because Galio is one of these, Galio is one of these mid laners that every jungler loves to gank. Alright, we are purposefully ignoring the Krugs here, and we're going to be joining Wukong in a second. Let's have a look at bot lane. Bot lane, Aphelios is ahead, Samira and Zed is a very snowbally trigger lane. You feel that you're ahead until they kill you, so you usually push them. Here, very classic situation as well. Fizz has a hard time into Galio, and keeping the lane in the middle here is beneficial. I would say more for the Galio, but I think all in all it's not a very volatile lane as long as Fizz manages to get some good trades in, and so far he does, most definitely. Gnar kind of bullying Sejuani, but this creates now an opening for a gank, so he has to get the wave under before he can get ganked, and he did not manage to do that, which is kind of unfortunate. Peanut did a little bit of a weird clear, and he ended up at Wolves instead of ending up at Gromp, and thus it would take a hot second until he arrives, but it turns out that the enemy jungler is probably clearing top to bottom instead, and so we shall be fine for just now. All right, this obviously, yeah, as Fizz, you should have seen that coming, that it is a little bit too obvious of a bait, and if they take it, then they probably have a man advantage. Fizz is going to go down to a triple counter gank, basically, or at least double counter gank, right? So yeah, not much that Peanut can do, and we'll see how exactly he is planning to get a lead. All right, so he is opting for that full clear. He is now moving into the Krugs, setting him up for a gank on the top lane, which unfortunately not going to be very necessary anymore, as top lane has been slain. He's not in the position to help Shavin, and so all in all he will just farm a little bit, but no kill participation for him so far, and also not a lot of gold. Now, dependent on what champion you are playing, this move is either a good move or a bad move. It kind of depends on how much gold you want, what your recall should be. I'm expecting, just like the Vi here, a Warhammer recall. No, we're going Sheen into Longsword, and a control ward obviously makes a lot of sense as well. A lot of ways to proc that Sheen. I personally always I usually always try to gravitate towards something that gives me raw stats instead of something that gives me like a Sheen proc, right? But I suppose Wukong will use that Sheen proc quite efficiently, so yeah. We see him make sure that the dragon is not being done here by Vi. This is something that you have to keep in mind. Even though this is a Cloud Soul, Cloud and Hextech Soul, two of the most scary dragons, as we have a little bit of a kerfuffle down in the bot lane here. Set is going to Haymaker and Samira picks up a kill. Now it is, yep, now it is on to her to try to survive the... Oh my god, the immediate counter gank. Alright, Wukong is ready to move on in, but yep, Vault Breaker is going to get Vi out of there, and Wukong has to retreat behind the lines of the turret as Aphelios still happily poking away. And this is the point where Wukong kind of just has to a little bit move up, you know, threaten so Samira can manage. And all in all, this looked like a W for the blue team, but you can't forget that there is a big CS difference, and since they didn't get Aphelios low enough, that CS difference is just going to grow. And so they would have, you know, they would have kind of been even on the trade, but since Aphelios managed to sustain up his HP, Samira obviously didn't. This looks very bad now for them. Very well done by the enemy Vi here, as Wukong is going to come around for a gank. But the problem with this gank here is that he has to do pretty much all the work himself, and that is a Galio counter gank coming in. The W is going to connect, Vault Breaker comes in to seal the deal, and that is a dragon going over to the red team. Now what do you do as Wukong in this situation? You died. Vi is quite strong. The CS advantage that you created, not really relevant anymore. Your bot lane is losing pretty hard. Fizz is in a very unfavorable matchup, so no matter how well he was doing and / is doing in lane, he will always have that, you know, big hunk of stone in front of him that is just very, very defense oriented in this matchup. Galio can set up some kills, but Galio will definitely not set up any kills, any solo kills that is, onto a Fizz, as the bot lane is still staying. Very interesting call here from them, but apparently it seems like they are able to, you know, regenerate some HP, and we didn't end up doing the dragon, which is very interesting. I don't know exactly why that happened. Maybe because Aphelios was keen on pushing in the wave, but I would be very, very interested in why exactly that happened. No matter, it didn't happen, so the Cloud Dragon is still there, as Gnar picks up a kill, but Vi probably going to be able to finish off the Gnar. Nope, Vi is not able to finish off the Gnar because she already used her ultimate in that fight, probably to try and save the Sejuani gap close, which means Gnar is out, and Gnar is taking a very, very oppressive lead here, and this is a win condition to behold, because a good Gnar, okay, flash out of the Alistar. Not the most valuable flash, but still a valuable-ish flash, right? He will still have Hextech flash, but it takes a little bit of threat off of that Samira. Samira now able to push in, and her greed actually paid off because of that Fizz gank. She is going to be able to recall here into a little bit less of a CS loss. And so in general, I would say that she isn't doing too poorly considering the matchup and considering how much of a powerhouse she can be if she is even in CS with something like the Aphelios. Now Aphelios still, don't get me wrong, Aphelios still 200 years on her, but you know, she has her own ways of dealing with that, right? Her W can be incredibly efficient and incredibly potent if used correctly, as Fizz is going to secure that kill onto the Galio. Well done by Fizz. And yeah, Fizz is probably out. I will... Nope, never mind. Fizz is definitely not out. Sejuani has a lot of... Oh, beautiful ultimate here by the Gnar, and that is a wombo combo. Wukong picking up 1-2 kills here, and he's probably going to pick up the kill onto the Alistar, which, remember, does not have Smite. Yes, he does not have Smite, so, you know, nowadays Smite is being used to travel great distances. Traverse, what was it, like 5 minutes? If you're only using Flash from one Nexus to the other. Yeah, now that's used. Now that's done by Smite. Because it's a little bit more efficient at that. Because junglers weren't strong enough already, you know? So, yeah. Alright. Mr. Fizz is going to get out of here again. Fizz is a very, very little slippery axolotl. And amazingly so, he will probably... Yeah, he will get out of this. And now this is a big lead. Now the Zhonya first... I don't know about a Zhonya first on Fizz. I guess it's a Vi on the enemy team, and I guess they have a lot of lockdown for you, but I don't know about the Zhonya first, because the thing is that Zhonya first will stunt you a lot, and usually Galio is one of these matchups where, as Fizz, if you can get Liandry's early, the magic penetration actually does quite a bit of work for you, but it shan't be so. I suppose, as Wukong is going to get engaged on, does he manage to get out of there? He's stunned for ages. It is incredibly hard to escape that. Alistar, Galio, Sejuani, because the thing is, right, that Sejuani gets her stack instantly applied because the enemy team is pretty much all melee with exception of Aphelios. And then you add to that, obviously, the lockdown that Vi has, the lockdown that Galio has, and you just have a scenario where you get CC'd once and you just don't move for the next 5 minutes. Talking about the next 5 minutes, let's have a little bit of a forecast how this game is going to go here if we can. So the mid lane turret is threatened. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to pick that up early on, because this can free up Fizz for a wave that has a bit better timing if he's able to push in 2 waves, and then he can have a little bit longer timing on his roams, right? Always something that is, you know, very, very, say, attractive here is is a dive onto the bot lane here, you know, with using the Fizz ultimate, and then the wombo combo that they have. They're generally a very, very strong skirmishy lane, the bot lane. And then Fizz obviously adds to that skirmish. Probably something like Sylas could be stronger, but Fizz is one of the stronger skirmishers, without a doubt. As we're going to push in here, and he doesn't elect to take this turret. I understand why he does this, because it gives him, you know, better recall timing and stuff, but I think that actually grabbing this turret is actually quite valuable, because not only does it give you gold, right, but it also creates much more openings for you. And obviously, you know, the gold on that turret is going to run out in 1 minute, as Vi is going to pick up a kill onto the Gnar. That's the problem with Sejuani. She falls behind, but she never really falls behind, and so kills are always going to be set up. Now, the triple kill early on is all the gold that Wukong got here. So far, he hasn't really done a lot, except obviously, dare I say, a little bit feed off of that amazing ultimate here by the Gnar, where he, you know, hit 3 people into the wall. And obviously, you know, doing a solid job at being at every fight. And this is, I think, one of the more important things, as Fizz is going to risk his life a little bit to get out of here. But he knows Wukong is around. Zhonya coming in through, and the Zhonya without a doubt saved him. Wukong picked up one of the camps. Not really anything that creates an advantage. It does, but it is a mild one. And so Wukong is going to try to extend his lead a little bit further by trying to maybe invade and trying to force these skirmishes, something that something that Gnar is amazing at. I personally think that we could have played this a little bit more aggressively here, as the Gnar ultimate still hasn't come out, and that is a double kill for the Aphelios picked up. Bit problematic. 3-0 Aphelios. We do not want to see that, as his opponent is going to pick up at least a turret for herself and a lot of gold down here in the bot lane. Nothing that he can't contend with, so as he is going to pick up the gold up here, and probably not going to get dove by the Fizz, because Vi is around, and it is just a very risky thing. Although he is in Q, flash Q Flash QW range. Oh, he overstayed his welcome just a little bit, and that is going to be a Fizz ult going absolutely wide, and Galio ult coming in to protect his little AD carry. Fizz trying to cancel him, but is he going to gamble his life away? No, he is not. Aphelios staying for another wave, which he is not going to get. If Galio has anything to say about it, we all know. And Fizz trying to... Yep. Ah, beautiful Flash E into the Aphelios death here. Is it worth it though is the question, because we just expanded our Flash. And without a Zhonya, we have no way of getting out of there. 3 people got an assist for that kill as well. And for this skirmish, we are going to be 1 man down. One very important man, some would argue a little bit more important than Aphelios at this current point in time. But it is what it is, as Gnar is going to pick up the Scuttle Crab, granting them vision to prevent that dragon take or the dragon trade. We're taking the second Herald here. As a jungler, I'm never a big fan of this situation. I would always love to be the guy that does this instead, but Herald can be useful. It can help out, you know, aid with breaking a turret like this, or breaking a turret like this that is being held by something like the Aphelios and the Galio together, you know, just because it's important to them to hold the turret or something. Herald can be very useful there, as Gnar is starting the Hextech Dragon, getting his Gnarbar charge as well. A little bit early on that Gnarbar charge, obviously, but we're going to be able to secure that dragon very, very easily, as Vi was seen somewhere over here, and that is going to be another dragon going over to the blue team. I say another, but it is their first dragon, actually. The Cloud Soul obviously went Vi's way, as we remember. And Peanut is just going to clear. Very important thing here as a jungler is to not get into the habit of trying to gank and make things happen too much. Something that happens to me a lot whenever I get Eye of Herald. I just think about how to use it instead of still, you know, remembering, yeah, there's going to be an opening, there's going to be time. As Aphelios is going to Gale Force on out of the Wukong's ultimate, but the second ultimate is going to catch him. Yep. Yeah. This was a little bit too greedy. I was about to say, is anyone there to help him? And yes, 3 people are coming to his help. That fight went a little bit too long. Wukong obviously had to wait for his E cooldown to be back up again, and then unfortunately wasn't able to finish off that Aphelios in time. Unfortunate situation, as the Gnar is going to secure a kill on to the Sejuani. Said that our jungler died in a very, very coin flippy kill onto the Aphelios here, because he could help out with the pressure that Gnar has created with this, as Gnar is probably going to try to execute himself, and Aphelios picks up a Glad 400. Beautiful, as we pick up, you know, just a very basic turret here for the blue team, nothing crazy. And we do have a 4k gold lead, almost 5k gold lead. Well, no, 4k gold lead here for the blue team, but that doesn't mean a lot if you have a 4-1 Aphelios going up against a comp that pretty much all of them play into his win condition, and he does have a lot of peel with the Galio, with the Alistar, with the Sejuani, and dare I say with the Vi. I know, Vi doesn't really do a lot of things except go in, but sometimes she can peel a little bit. Alright, we're going to see how exactly this is going to work out, because I personally as a Fizz would try to avoid having to face off against Sejuani, just because Sejuani has a lot of setup on you, and that means that while you're fighting, you're always exposing yourself to a 3-man gank, and your odds at killing her are much lower than your odds at killing someone like the Galio, for example, right? But yeah, we're going to move in, try to annoy her a little bit, do some trading, but the Galio ult is going to come out. Beautiful jump over the Galio ultimate, and that is a pickup onto the Sejuani, and we have a full-blown team fight here, and we're going to see how exactly that is going to pan out. Aphelios a little bit out of position, and that is going to be a dead Aphelios. The Gnar absolutely huge jump over the wall here, you know, securing that Aphelios and keeping him from holding down that fight. Very, very advantageous fight here. A 3-for-1 trade plus a summoned Herald, which means that we're going to be able to be taking down another turret here as the blue team. And so now the gold lead has grown just a little bit. to a 6k gold lead. Let's call it 5k. And Vi is thinking about going in, but I personally wouldn't expect her to go in there. Vi still is a menace, 6-1. We could argue that Chempunk Chainsword is a little bit of a weird choice, as if we ask ourselves how much healing is there, there is only the healing from Samira, and I personally, I don't know if a Chainsword is worth that much gold investment here, but you know, her decision has been made, and it is not a game altering one at that. We see Samira going for a very, very smart play here. Something that we have seen in on the Samira front, let's say on the innovations, is that people tend to go Lord Dominik's instead of something like the Executioner's Calling. Executioner's Calling, a lot of fun to play, but not a very effective item. And versus, you know, the armor stack that is present here, it is without a doubt a pretty good item. Some Europeans also like to go Bloodthirster second, just maximizing her survivability. From what I last checked, I don't know if that is a very, you know, that is still a build that is being run, but in these higher elos, or in the highest elos, and on the Korean server, granted, if you are strong as an AD carry, you are going to see a lot of armor going up against yourself if people can somehow fit it in. And so Lord Dominik's Regards is the most safe bet, as penetration almost always, if you were looking for a damage item, is almost the safest bet, as the set is going to take the AD carry away from the fight. But is that going to be enough, as he rejoins the fight? And that is an absolutely weak balls fight here, as the Gnar ultimate did not come through, and now there is no threat on that Gnar ultimate anymore, as Gnar is going to ult and going to bait his team probably into their death, but they do know better, and so he just goes down for nothing. Very, very ambitious Gnar. He played the laning phase amazingly well, hit a beautiful ultimate here in the early skirmishes, but now he has been kind of falling off here in these team fights, not hitting his Gnar bar quickly and not preparing for these skirmish or for these team fights. Little suboptimal. Wukong always there, always present, as you would expect from a, well, from Peanut's caliber of a player, and that is going to be another dragon going over to the red team. Unfortunate situation, but we just lost the fight. We didn't lose a lot of people though, and so the gold lead is closing. However, there is still a gold lead here for the blue team, and so this fight could have easily been a full swing of over 5k gold lead over to the red team. Full swing of the equalization, I wanted to say. Obviously they wouldn't have gotten 10k gold from that team fight, but you know, if everyone would have engaged with the Gnar here, there's a good chance they would have been cleaned up, and that would have been a lot of gold going over to the red team. A lot more gold than just now, as very, very well played actually by our team. They realized that that fight was not optimal, and this is the lockdown I was talking about. Just not a lot you can do as Fizz, to be honest, and so Fizz is going to die, and he's going to give over a shutdown. I'm not exactly sure to who, but I would assume it was the Aphelios, maybe something like the Vi. And we are going to fight the Baron here. We do not have Fizz, so very, very free movement for the enemy AD carry here. Yeah, and that is exactly what is happening, as Samira fails to take down the Aphelios. Obviously her item's not very good at taking someone like Aphelios down in the first place, as Gnar is a little bit late to show up again, and he does he does pick up a kill onto the Sejuani again, as he so likes to do. However, is that going to win him the game? No, that is not, probably not going to win him the game, and so he will have to move out of there. The Baron was prevented, and as Fizz is now available for the blue team here, Fizz can wreak too much havoc, and so the decision is made. Okay, pack the bags, lads. We're going back to our base, farming up and waiting for that next lost team fight here by the blue team. Very, very coin flippy team fight comp here by the blue team. Generally, I would say that at this point, Aphelios is just so much stronger than Samira. As Samira, she does love a team fight that is brawly, but there is a certain point where the enemy team can be too good at brawling, so she cannot really blow them up, or she cannot really do what she wants to do, and so unfortunate situations can occur. Obviously, both AD carries trying to go for Infinity Edge here, but Aphelios already has that completed, and now Aphelios is an absolute menace in these team fights, and Samira, she isn't quite there, right? She has her W, yes, and she can do a couple of things, but Aphelios has so many modes here to fight in these fights, right? He can be very safe and far away, peeled by Alistar, Galio, and the Sejuani. He can be aggressive in the team fights, as something like Wukong and Gnar are going to have to dive in, and the Fizz, if he doesn't watch out trying to engage onto the Aphelios, he can be absolutely just locked down by the enemy team, blown up in no second. And we'll see. I think a lot of this fight is going to be predetermined by whether or not Gnar manages to hit a good Gnar ult here. The good Gnar ult is probably going to enable an amazing Wukong ult. And then that can create a opening for Samira to actually get in more damage than an AD carry that has a full item more than her. I mean, not full, but you know, that has an item like the Infinity Edge more than her, so very huge item. All right, Gnar already lost a lot of his HP. Samira is going to get engaged on. She is not going to get out of her stun before she is half HP, and that makes for a absolutely dangerous team fight here, as Samira is outplaying the Vi a little bit here, picking up a kill, and that means that amazingly so, through amazing micro, the blue team is going to pick up a victory here. Very, very well done, and I will be honest, I would love to kind of rewatch that fight, because that fight there was so much going on, and that was just such a beautiful fight here. Let's have a look at it. All right, Wukong engaging onto the Sejuani here. He is kind of just trading her out as the Gnar is looking for an engage angle, not really hitting it. And here we have a lot of people sitting on that Wukong clone, and the enemy team is kind of set up in a in a convex, and that is going to be the engage onto the Samira, but she's not going to be locked down, and so she has a lot of time to trade. Flashes the Vi, and with Wukong together, she can regroup, and she is still able to deal damage, as the Aphelios has been taken down, is not able to do anything in that fight. And these fights where a lot of movement is happening, Samira obviously excels at, and if these fights are so chaotic, that is where someone like Aphelios can struggle, because he only has that Gale Force, and then he just has to move everywhere. And obviously something else that is very important here was the positioning in which the fight occurred. If you look at the situation here, right, that was a concave that the blue team set up into which the red team attacked. And yes, their AD carry was vulnerable, but that meant that everyone was able to attack them at the same time, where they had to choose their targets. And so just a lot more possibilities here. And the flash on the, we have to say, the flash on the Samira saved the day. I would say in the end there, absolutely huge damage from Wukong obviously in that fight as well. Beautiful 1-for-1 here by the Fizz, absolutely worth it, taking down the jungler here. But is this going to be enough? Gnar charging up his Gnar bar, and that is going to be an amazing Gnar ultimate here coming out potentially. Well, it was okay, but Samira is going to take down the enemy AD carry, and that is an absolute cleanup here by the Samira. And we are not opting for a dragon, because we are at 1 dragon and it would take 3 more dragons. No, we are going for the enemy Nexus. Smelling blood in the water here. Thank you, Loco, for that amazing inspiration. And now we're going to be taking down at least an inhibitor, and then maybe taking down the dragon. But I see pings going down onto the enemy Nexus, so potentially someone is going to be trying to finish, but no. We are leaving, and we are taking the dragon, picking it up. Vi is obviously alive again, but Vi is not going to be able to steal anything here, as she's going to walk through a absolute minefield filled with wards, and you know, she's not going to pick up anything, and dying in this situation could be very dangerous. So obviously not a flip that you necessarily want to take. All right. And so the blue team has re-established the lead that they had, and now they are 10k gold ahead. You see how quickly gold swings in these games, in these solo queue games. Something that you might have to keep in mind next time you want to FF 15 minutes. There's always a chance in solo queue. Doesn't mean that you can't surrender, but means that you should be a little bit more hesitant on that surrender button. Maybe something that I've learned for myself, at least. I definitely am guilty of sometimes surrendering a little bit too early. As you guys might know, I do like to play something like the Samira, which is like the Nidalee, which is a very early gamey champion, and so it can feel very, very dangerous to not be strong or not be ahead. And with early gamey, I don't mean that she doesn't do anything in the late game, but she doesn't have innate scaling. Let's put it like that. Like something like the Viego or the Wukong. Wukong is going to be potentially taken down here as the Sejuani is going to go wide, and it seems like Sett has to pay for his jungler's sins, and Samira as well, and that is going to be an absolutely huge takedown here by the red team. Are they going to be able to convert any of this into an objective though? No, they are not. And so that fight was a little bit pointless by the blue team to take, but also not the most useful fight here for the red team. All it did was decrease that lead slightly, but also not by a lot. And most important of all, it told the blue team to get off their lawn, but a lot of cooldowns are going to be used here, and that means that now Samira knows there is no flash on the Vi, which is very, very important. As we look at the resources available for the next fight, we have a flash coming up on the Aphelios, flash also coming up on the Samira, so they are about even on that front. Supports, we do not know when Sett's flash is going to be coming up, but if I remember, it's going to be a long time, because I think he flashed up here, so it's going to be an absolute like 4 minutes still, or 3 minutes. Absolutely long time. Probably pretty similar to Vice timer, I would say, which I would say is currently at about 3 minutes. All right, enemy team setting up a little bit, and Gnar, oh no, it's actually Wukong this time who is preying onto the Sejuani. Sejuani definitely a weak link here in the chain of the enemy team. Galio, if you look at the stats, you would think Galio is a very weak link too, but Galio, he is a champion that is designed to play from behind, so he is not necessarily uncomfortable in this situation. And as much as I hyped up Sejuani's strength when behind, Sejuani also does have a good amount of damage in her kit if she is ahead that she relies on to be strong, and that is going to be a kill onto the AD carry, and that probably seals the deal, let's be honest, but we will see whether or not it does. Samira is going to pick up another kill, and if not, it is at least going to mean another 2 inhibitors and a Baron, but I'm expecting the absolute just victory here for the blue team, as Vi is doing, I'm not quite sure what exactly, but she's not quite proxying here, as we are waveless, and we are going to take down the turret nonetheless though, and that means a victory for Peanuts team. GG, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Stay awesome.